But for example, let's imagine that you don't want to complicate your life. You don't want to deal with these farm tokens. Enter BEEFY.finance. So BEEFY.finance originally looked like this. And here it's a multi-chain yield optimizer. And what this does is essentially is that you provide your tokens just like you would to any APY farm, but instead of you having to deal with those extra LP tokens, or sorry, not the LP tokens, those extra farm tokens that are provided for you, what BEEFY.finance does is that you provide your token and then they sell off your those little farm tokens or reward tokens and then reinvest it into the LP so that it auto compounds it for you. So this is an auto compounder, what it's called. So for example, let's go over to AVAX. So in AVAX, we see that we could, or actually you click on AVAX, but it shows you all of the tokens. So you have to come up here to filter, blockchain, AVAX. Where's AVAX? Avalanche, right? So for example, we come over here and we look at perfect example, Ape AVAX LP token. On Trader Joe, we were getting, let's say on the farm, we were getting 10.76% plus 41% of the Joe tokens. So in total, that's like 51%, give or take, 52%, 53 with the decimals. On Beefy, they're telling you you're going to get 66% APY, not APR, APY, right? So it's auto compounding it for you at a higher percentage. How they're able to do this is because they sell off those reward tokens and then recompound it for you in the LP token. So they do all the hard work for you essentially. The only thing you have to do here is you provide the LP token, in this case AVAX Ape LP, and you deposit it on BEEFY.finance, and then they sort of take care of the rest. They have extensive documents that you can read as to how it works. They'll give you a breakdown of how it works, where you're getting the APY from. They have, if it's been community audited, they'll tell you it's community audited. You could even buy insurance on this farm. You could even SAP it. So SAPs, so imagine that you only have AVAX. You basically could deposit your AVAX and they'll make sure that they'll get you your LP token for you. So you don't even have to do anything essentially. Now they'll charge you an extra fee for that, but sometimes it's minimal depending on the network. So it's not really a huge thing. You are charged a fee for them doing this for you on your behalf, which is like 4.5%. But if they're guaranteeing you a higher APY, why not, right? So the cool thing about Beefy is that you don't they'll do all the hard work for you. They auto compound it for you. They sell off that uh, token, that farm token that exposes you to this extra layer of price action that you may not be interested in, right? So because they are minting so many, the admissions of these farm protocols are so high that that token is eventually going to decrease, or they tend to trail to zero. And so why would you want to deal with a token that is price long-term price action is going to decrease to zero or as close as possible to zero, because it's never going to be valueless, because I'm sure the protocols are going to do stuff to make sure that there is some value to it, but it'll decrease to that point. So Beefy removes that exposure and just lets you take advantage of them doing it for you essentially and increasing your APY. Now there are some risks involved with that, because now you're dealing with two um, contracts, smart contracts, and smart contracts can be vulnerable to hacking and a bunch of other stuff. Beefy could be vulnerable to hacking. So there is that aspect of it, but nowadays you don't really hear Beefy's pretty secure. A lot of people use Beefy. A lot of people use Beefy, so it's generally pretty secure overall. You are exposed to, also the platforms such as Trader Joe, for example, them having their own security issues. So now you're being double exposed if you go through Beefy, or if you're just going through Trader Joe, your exposure's only through them. Now you still run the risk, but it's a little bit different because there's not a contract layer on top of a contract layer sort of situation. Um, but if you don't mind that risk, why not, get paid out for it? So Beefy is very cool because of that. And they have tons of different protocols. Now, not all of them make sense. Sometimes you might just get a better deal on a different protocol or one of the farms itself. There are times that it just doesn't work. The math just doesn't add up enough for them to be able to give you a better APY. But if you don't want to deal with the farm tokens, then it could be a good option for you. So, for example, if you want to say, let's see, let's go to blockchain. Let's say, okay, I want to put my money into Moonriver, for example. And Moonriver is solar, right? Solar bean. And oh, I'm guaranteed this much APY, 197%. Now, keep in mind that total value locked is very low, so that it's disproportional. There's probably not really a lot of traffic for it. So you're capturing a lot of the fees that are coming in through there because there's not really a lot happening. So these APYs can sometimes be deceiving because of the total value locked. So you always want to make sure that your total value locked is as high as possible that it can be, that it's reasonable, because that's an aspect of how these APYs are determined, right? So let's rearrange it by total value locked. Now these two are paused. What's the reason? They're not necessarily clear as to it. But for example, if you do a BNB Moon River, you get capture 23%, 27% APY from a BNB Moon River pairing. Or you could capture, for example, Solar USDC, a reasonable amount of TVL. It's still low in my opinion, but nevertheless, um, this is a Solar USDC pairing. So at least one of those tokens isn't going to decrease in price. So that could be a good option for you. Now, Moonriver is relatively small as a network. So let's say you want to do something with Moonbeam, which is larger. Now look at this one, right? This is a boosted farm, so it's getting more APY because it's boosted. But hey, if you want to take the risk for it, and it safety score is relatively low, it's low risk. I don't know much about Stella Swap, so I don't know what that token is specifically. But if you are willing to risk the exposure to it, you're getting a daily percentage of 0.7%, an APY of 450%, which you don't really see much with farms. You only see that with like DAOs and whatnot. So this could be a good exposure. I mean, TVL is 1.3 million, 1.03 million. So there's a bunch of people doing this. So that gives me confidence that it's a pretty safe bet to go down that route. You could harvest the last harvest was 21 minutes ago. And you could do everything from here, right? You could connect your wallet. The only thing is you do have to provide that liquidity token. You cannot sap this one. So you will have to, find the tokens, bring them together, create the liquidity, and then take them over to Beefy. So very, very, very cool project, Beefy.finance, that you could utilize. The other thing that I want to show you guys with Beefy, so let's go with something that's a little bit more stable, that's a little bit older. So let's go back to Avalanche. So let's look at, so look at this. This is a single-sided Avalanche. So you're only putting in Avalanche for 16%. Why not, right? Your Avalanche is basically getting you 16% yearly APY. You don't have to do anything with it. You just deposit it here. As opposed to this one that it's only getting you 8%. So these are different platforms. Banker Joe, Aave, and they're boosting the Aave one. So let's go over to the, find it. Oh, let's use this one for example, right? So here, the historical data tells you what the APY is over time. and it gives you an idea as to what the AP are they able to sustain the APY that they're telling you. So this is from a week ago or from this past week, and you can see that they're sustaining, roughly speaking, about, let's say, average it out to 22%, give or take. And the current APY is 21%, right? But a month ago, let's see how the month was doing. The month sort of goes all, it bounces between 15%, about 30%. So more or less, they could probably guarantee about 25%, give or take, over the year that they could sustain. Um, let's see, yearly, probably yearly, there's not enough information. Oh, there could be enough information. So as you could see, from September of 20 or August of 2021, they had a huge APY, then it went down. So most of it has tapered off, and probably you're going to be almost guaranteed that kind of APY. So that's an aspect of Beefy that you have to keep an eye out. But nevertheless, or not just of Beefy, of the protocols of the farms itself, whether or not they're able to sustain those APYs. But this looks like something that 21% very much doable based on historical data. If it spikes, that's fine. If it dips a little bit, that's fine. As long as it's averaging around what they're saying or what you feel comfortable with, this is a good deal essentially. Because this is AVAX on USDC, or it's paused right now, but AVAX on USDC. So your impermanent loss is only realistically going to come from one token. And if you're getting 21% as we saw, and your impermanent loss is only what, 1%, and this is, mind you, remember this is APY, so it's being auto compounded for you. So they're taking your winnings and pumping them back into it. So you're getting more and more each time, or based on what you're they're taking that farm token, selling it off, and making more USDC LP, USDC AVAX LP. So you're getting more money from it at the end of the day.